And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Welcome to Blue Please on WoW Radio with my... Breathe, Total Biscuit, breathe. Welcome to my show. The date today is the 6th of March, 2009. It's a Friday. It's Blue Please. You know it. You love it. I certainly hope so. What have we got coming in for you in the show today? Exciting stuff. Oh, yeah. Blizzard announced a shoutcasting contest, and I'm very excited by that. It's like, ooh, legitimacy. And the shoutcasting contest involves shoutcasting over a particular piece of video footage. And this video footage is a 3-minute arena match. Now I thought, I could enter this because there's like a 30-inch monitor and it's going to be awesome. And I thought, well, okay. But they're letting you, like, retake it as much as you want and refine it and cut them like, this isn't how you do shoutcasting, so I throw down the gauntlet. I do so right now to anybody listening.
Hi,
Anyone?
I'm Stephen Warkings. I love listening to Extremities Domestic.
What the hell was that? Let's try that again, shall we? I have no idea what just happened. I actually hit a random hotkey. Let's try it again. Anyway, yes, shoutcasting live is a really good idea, as you can clearly see when you accidentally press buttons. Right. Anyway. I throw down the gauntlet to anyone who is entering that contest. Shoutcasting is supposed to be done live. If you actually wanted to do it for real, you would have to be able to do it live. You would have to be able to call the moves out as they happen. That's why it's called play-by-play and not an after-action report. So, I throw down the gauntlet to you and I say, do it live. Do it live. No editing, no rubbish like that. Do it live. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, I have watched the first 10 seconds of this video just to find out what team composition there is, and the rest of it, I have left. I have no idea what is going to happen, and I am going to do it live on the show today. Why? Well, again, proper shoutcasting is done live. It's more entertaining, it's more exciting, and that's the way you do it properly. It's not a proper contest unless you are doing it live, because I can't go back. If I was working for Blizzard, let's just say I was hired by Blizzard to go shoutcast the Arena Tournament 2020 or whatever, when it actually becomes a valid esport. Yeah, right. What if that happened? What if I had to do that? I wouldn't be able to go back and edit out my mistakes. No, absolutely not. Do you think the guys who do live football, live sports do it? No, they don't. It's live. That's the point. You've got to know your stuff. You've got to have the talent. You've got to have the drive. You've got to be exciting, thrilling, and descriptive. So that's what's going to be happening today. Now, you're going to be able to follow this along. Yes, you're going to be able to watch the video while the commentary happens. To do that, go to wcradio.com. You will find a link on the front page. That link is to the Blizzard downloader, which will download a 100 megabyte AVI. If you're having problems with that, go to the IRC channel. Click the chat button on our site, or put IRC.MMOIRC.com, # WOW radio into your IRC client of choice. Head on over, and you will see that our IRC representative is providing a mirror for this particular video. This particular broadcast thingy that we're going to be doing is going to be happening in the next hour, about an hour from now. So, when it does happen, by all means, you should hopefully, I would imagine, have the video by then. What I'll do is I'll give you a 5-second countdown, you all start the video, and in theory, it should be in sync. Indeed, in theory. We're going to do it, it's going to be experimental, it's going to be fun. And it's also going to be a reminder that tomorrow, a brand new show, the Saturday Night Main Event, the trailer for which I'll be playing a little bit later on in the show, is coming up with the one and only Emperor, the only guy who is more old school as regards to WoW Radio than me, back after a 3+ year hiatus. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to that. Play-by-plays of Warcraft 3 from the ICE Esports League, as well as other RTSs coming up in the next few weeks. It's going to be great, so make sure you tune into that. It's at 9 PM EST, that's the American time, tomorrow on WCRadio.com. And if you miss it, we can, of course, give you the podcast. Now, enough of that silliness. There is today a special guest in the channel. He goes by the name of Fred. And I'd like to say hi, Fred, because Fred is from a blog. Yes. A blog by the name of Underground World of Warcraft. Now, I'd like to give you the link to this blog, because I found this blog relatively recently, and I was intrigued by the concept. Turns out that 5 guys met... I should say guys, that's not technically true. 5 people met by accident. All from different backgrounds, different ages, creeds, colours, and all that good stuff. And they decided that they'd start doing a blog, and the theme of their blog is podcast reviews, particularly WoW podcast reviews. And the quality of their journalism so far has been exceptionally good. Now, I'd like to link you to this, and I'm sure the IRC rep in the channel will give you a link as well. It's undergroundwow.blogspot.com. That is undergroundwow.blogspot.com. And they're going to be reviewing podcasts every day. And I'm rather excited by this idea because so far we haven't really had a site that has been able to give us good, independent, constructive criticism and good, proper review. And that's exciting. Now, of course, our site's going to be a prime target. We put out loads and loads of shows every week. So, evidently, some of them are probably going to get shredded. And you know what? If they get shredded, they deserve to be shredded. It is very important, vitally important, in my opinion, that podcasters listen to their critics. All too many of them live inside this comfortable bubble. It's like an egg filled with fluff. A fluff egg. They live inside the fluff egg. They broadcast from the fluff egg, which I must say gives very poor acoustics. And they are immune to all criticism because they are surrounded by an honor guard of fanboys who will shoo away any critique and say, oh, it's free. It is immune to critique. No, nobody, including myself, is immune to critique. And I'm hoping to get some over the next few days. So yeah, check out that site, undergroundwow.blogspot.com. Looking very promising, still in its early days. I'm going to be following it. It is the first, they have the honour of being the first RSS feed, and indeed the only RSS feed that I've ever subscribed to. Yes, I got the RSS feature on my phone working, and I've subscribed to that feed. And maybe I might subscribe to BBC News and CNN and stuff like that. But yes, undergroundwow.blogspot.com is the first feed I've ever subscribed to in my life. I'm a little bit old-fashioned when it comes to things. I don't use, like, iTunes. I still download all my podcasts manually. Yes, I am that hardcore. Anyway, enough of that, folks. We're 6 minutes 30 into the show, and it's time for this.
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
Oh, it never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Oh yes, time for the mail, the segment that every podcast does, but mine does better. Right, time for some mail. I got an email here that actually regarded a subject we discussed last week, and you can download this show if you missed it on WCRadio.com or on our iTunes feeds. And he says this. It's from a Dave Shaw. 10-man Sartharian 3 Drakes. We discussed last week, this is just a little bit of background for those who may have missed it, the idea that, and someone claimed this, that there was no genuine 10-man only guild that had actually managed to kill Sartharian 3 Drakes. Now, we don't know if this is actually true, and we asked for your opinion, your submissions, and your anecdotes regarding this. Now, there is another email here regarding it that I would like to read, and it says this. Hey, in regards to your comments last week about Sarth 10-man 3 Drakes in only 10-man gear, This week, my guild, who has cleared everything in WoW, took an only 10-man geared tank and healer to our 10-man 3D caster group. Yes, 3D is now short for 3 Drakes. It's not like Sartharians in 3 dimensions! Like, the only way you can beat that encounter is to put on the 3D glasses. No, that's not actually how it is. As cool as that would be, 3-dimensional, 3D Sartharian, no, I'm afraid not. Anyway, he goes on to say this. It was impossible for us to do with 80% of the raid wearing 25-man near best in-slot gear. If you find a guild in only 10-man gear who has done Sartharian 3 Drakes, they will have put in a monumental amount of effort. We are talking an excess of pre-nerf Muru effort, with composition and best in-game in every slot items, with perfect specs set up specifically for the fight. The 10-man version we clear with Scrubstitutes. That version is not hard, and neither the 10-man with proper raid stacking, but you downgrade the gear by 13 item levels, and it becomes next to impossible. Yours sincerely, an irate raid leader who wishes more of Blizzard would listen to this show. Right. It's an interesting point, that. And if that is indeed the case, then I would certainly say that Blizzard has dropped the ball on this one. We had the debate last week, 10 versus 25, man, as to how 10 versus 25 should be designed. And some people said, well, I believe that 10 and 25 should be separate but equal, and they should be of equivalent level difficulty, and they should give equivalent, mostly, level loot. Yeah? And then some people said, no, 10-man is always going to be easier than 25-man, and it's important to make sure that there is a separation there. So all 10-man content should be easier than 25-man and offer lesser level loot as a result. Now, of course, there was a bit of a split in opinion there, and I believe both methods are valid. And the problem that I highlighted last week is that Blizzard is doing neither. And this issue, and this email indeed, only highlights the problem, saying that we're not going to make 10-mans all universally easier, but we're also not going to make them all universally equal either, because the gear that is dropped is obviously worse due to the item level and the item budget. So we're kind of stuck in between two possible design philosophies, and we've yet to decide which one we actually want to do. And I believe that is vitally important, especially with the release of Ulduar, that they pick a side. Either it's got to be easier, or it's got to be separate but equal. Personally, I favour separate but equal. I believe that 10-man is a valid raid style, and 10-man guilds should be catered to in that respect, assuming they are skillful enough. However, I do not accept that you can make everything absolutely equal. If you have a look at some of the mechanics, for instance, in 25-man Nax, let's have a look at, say, the way Kel'Thuzad works. Kel'Thuzad has a 2-man mind control in 25-man mode that he does not have in 10-man. Now, that mind control could be potentially lethal to a 10-man group because it is taking 2 members of the group away, and those 2 members could potentially be the 2 healers. Now, of course, that means a raid wipe, but in a 25-man, 2 people, not such a big deal. Now, you say, oh, well, Total Biscuit, why don't you just take it down to 1 guy? Well, that's still not proportionate, and you've got to bear in mind that 10 and 25-man raids have completely different compositions, and often an ability will affect one in a completely unexpected way in comparison to the other, and it is very important to note that that is difficult and tricky to balance. Now, whether or not that will happen with Ulduar remains to be seen, but it does point out that, yes, apparently Sartharian 3 Drakes, to my knowledge so far, I have yet to be proven wrong on this, and if you can prove me wrong, please email themurloc@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. That Sartharian 3 Drakes cannot be beaten by only 10-man geared players. That is a big issue, because that means anyone wishing to go solely down the 10-man path, which is supposed to be valid, that is what was supposedly introduced with Wrath. That was the whole point. That was part of Blizzard's design philosophy that they specifically espoused at BlizzCon this year, and indeed the year before that. If that's going to be part of their design philosophy, then we need Sartharian to be the exception that proves the rule and not a worrying harbinger of things to come in that respect. And that is my response to that. Now, I've got one more email that I'd like to quickly cover before we hit the first music break of the day. It says this. It's from James Mills. Hey TV, my friend and I were arguing the other day on Vent about what's the best way to test raid content. This was after a rather disastrous boss testing last Friday on the PTR on American side. Basically, the instance servers were overloaded because they had too many people forming 2-man raids just so they could see inside Ulduar. So Blizzard kicked everyone out of Ulduar besides some top guilds like Death and Taxes and Fusion. This got me saying that if they truly want to test the content and get a lot of bugs out of the way, why not just let the top couple hundred guilds on US test the content and the top couple hundred guilds on EU test it? I mean, those are the guilds that are going to get the realm/world first anyway. Let everyone test the rest of the PTR content, but leave the raid content to people, you know, who will actually test it. Also, what do you think of Darkfall Online now it's been released? Well, I can answer the second question is I don't know because I haven't played it. I had a beta, it didn't work. I got like 2 FPS, so I gave up and went to play Lotro instead. Now, in the respect of the other question, it's a very difficult call to make. It's not all that simple. Because what happens when you've got, say, the 201st guild, and indeed, how do you rank them? Do you go off WoW Jutsu? Well, that's not a very good idea, because WoW Jutsu's not entirely accurate. What about boss killers? Well, neither's boss killers either, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to go off the rankings of a site that at one point, and believe possibly still does, has links to guides and gold selling on it. Not particularly good. How do you rate who the top 200 guilds are? Do you go back just with Wrath? Do you go back to TBC? Do you go back to old school content? Pre-TBC? Who knows? There's no way to really make that decision, and it's a little bit too arbitrary for my liking. Now, I do agree that the people who should be in the instance are the people who are testing. As far as I'm concerned, yes, you should kick out 2-man groups, 3-man groups, anything that is not a viable group from the instance, because they are clearly not testing the content. As regards to putting them all in there and giving them all free reign to learn the content, I feel that would damage the raid scene as a whole, on the basis that those top 200 guilds are going to beat the content in no time at all, I would imagine, and then are going to have nothing to do. Now, if they have nothing to do for X number of months, they're probably going to go find another game, let's face it. They're not all that attached to WoW, they might go find something else. And then, of course, the next PTR is going to come down the next top 200 guilds. And it's going to go down and down and down and down. Now, personally, I do not agree with PTR testing at all. I believe this, from the bottom of my heart, that if the biggest, most well-funded PC game development studio on the planet cannot test its own content, then something is horribly wrong. Because that is what they are paid to do. We are not paid to do that. Indeed, we pay for the privilege of trying out content that, to be honest, I don't want to see. I don't want to know the tactics, but I'm going to know the tactics before Old War comes out. Some of my guild are already, probably right now, on the PTR testing. And I can't stop them from doing that, and I certainly can't blame them. They want to get as much of a leg up as they can. But would not it be nice? Would it not be nice, for once, to bring back the mystery of World of Warcraft, to bring back an area that people don't already know how to do 500 times over and hasn't been data mined to hell? Would it not be nice to bring back that sense of wonder and the sense of achievement that comes from killing something that nobody else ever has even seen, let alone beaten? Would that not be wondrous? I ask you. Now, before we go to the music break, I'd like to quickly tell you about the illusion of choice! One day it's going to get me, but not today. You can email in for the last topic of the show. Email your suggestions to themurloc@gmail.com, and that's the email for all other correspondence related to Blue Please. That is themurloc@gmail.com. My name is Total Biscuit. You are listening to Blue Please on WoW Radio. This is Typo Negative. I don't want to be me. I'll be right back after this with a proposition that casual players do not exist. Ooh. Enjoy.